bullshit. You ain't really wild, you a tourist. I be blacking out with the purist. I made 100,000, then I freaked it. I made 500,000, then I freaked it. I bought an 87 for the weekend. This ain't what you want, this ain't what you want.
Miami Culture Maven coming to you live.
Agent Sully.
Solo. And Vision, and we are the Glass Half Full, where the conversation is always engaging and you never know what you get. As always, if you love the content, hit the subscribe button, drop comments below, and let's keep it interactive.
Right, so we were having a really interesting conversation last night, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Can we speak on it? Or is it too touchy, this subject?
It might be touching for some people, but you need to get over it.
It's a little taboo. Let's go there.
All right, so the Shade Room posted on Instagram a picture of a third grade teacher that had a picture of he and his husband kissing on the desk. And I'll just read you the caption from the post. It says, a third grade teacher has this picture of him and his husband on his desk. The children have inquired about it and asked questions. Parents say that they have no issues with his sexuality, but he should not have the pictures on his desk for the children to see, and they have gone to the principal about this situation. Do you agree with the parents? Should the principal make him remove the picture? How do y'all feel about this?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Culture?
Well, I'm going to say that it's the wrong choice of photo.
Vision?
It's about the kids first. There's a room for learning. If it's not on topic, it shouldn't be there.
Why?
It's a classroom. If
Right.
I'm teaching math, why should I have something in the actual learning environment that may potentially take the conversation out of the spectrum of math?
Well, I mean, my first question is, let's put things into context. How visible was this picture? How large was it? And what really was the motive behind the teacher putting the picture up there for the kids to see it? And why are the parents really in an outrage about this? Is it about the picture, or is it something deeper?
But bottom line is, no matter where the picture is, how big, how small, if the kids saw it and were able to inquire about it, it was too big. All right? And the fact that the parents are in uproar, or they went to the principal and had to take this down, it's for good reason. It's for good reason because you send kids to school to learn. You tend them to learn subjects, not political views, not political, just none of that. None of that.
Well, I want to give some context for my point of view, right? I was an educator for 14 years, performing arts and visual arts educator, and I'm a wedding photographer. So from my perspective, first of all, as an educator, I think that it's not the right choice of photo because you're causing conversation that's causing distraction in everything you have in your classroom. It should be a point of inspiration for the students. Every single thing, because children are tactile. They want to interact with everything in their environment, and you should allow them to do so. So as an educator, you have a responsibility to create an environment that is inspirational. Two, as a wedding photographer, I'm going to say that that's not the choice of photo you put on your desk at school. I don't care what size it is. Blow it up big and put it in your foyer so that as soon as people come into your home, they see the beauty of your love. Because I mean, I think that that's what it's about. It comes down to the teacher's ego and okay, like, accept my love, which I have no problem with. I accept your love openly. I'm a wedding photographer. I would not turn you away if you come and hire me as a wedding photographer. But I would make a suggestion that those more intimate moments of your relationship, you keep them for adult conversations, not 9 and 10-year-olds. 3rd grade, that's too young.
Okay, well, I have a few questions, simply because I'm not a parent, nor am I a teacher. I've never been in that arena. So I'm just looking at it, from an outside perspective. What's so wrong about it? If it was a heterosexual couple and the teacher had a picture of her and her husband or him and his wife, and it appeared to be a wedding picture, it seemed pretty benign. But what's so wrong about that? Why is it a cause for uproar now for the parents to go to the principal when it wasn't a source for contention or distraction otherwise?
Well, I'm going to speak from the point of view as a parent. I am a parent, and my son, he's 14 years old now, so he's a little bit past that stage. However, a public school in my opinion, is an area for neutral learning. Again, I don't want any kind of views being pushed on it. I don't want an NRA advocate pushing their agenda. I don't want heterosexual versus homosexual. I don't even want a heterosexual picture, wedding pictures kissing. Well, nothing wrong with being next to each other. This is social aspects, but I don't want any kind of agendas being pushed that I didn't implement initially on my own.
So, all right, like, take you for example. Maybe you said that you're an educator. You're an educator also, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So, would you say everything in the classroom itself is potential stimuli, right?
Yes, and it should be, designed with tactic.
Right.
The
So
classroom.
everything in that environment is a potential. I guess I'd say like a potential opportunity for them to be mentally stimulated.
Yes, that's the whole point of designing your environment. So that's why I'm saying that I think that this teacher was irresponsible in bringing that into the classroom environment, because it is now a distraction as per your curriculum.
Right.
How is it a distraction?
It's a distraction because the children are asking about it. That's why the parents even went to the principal to say, why are my children coming home to ask me these questions that are obviously uncomfortable for the parents?
Right.
Okay, so it's a distraction for the children to ask their parents about a topic. How is that a distraction?
Because the children are there within a certain time period to learn about a certain subject, which they have to take a test. It's rote learning, right? We may not agree with the educational system, but that's how it is. And so it needs to remain within its lane. Stay in your lane. You're the math teacher. Teach my child mathematics.
Well, we're assuming that the teacher was teaching the classroom about his sexuality in a relationship. It's just a picture. So we don't know the intent. So we can't go so far as to define the intent without knowing all the context.
But I'm telling you that as an educator, you have to be intentional. So that's why I'm calling it irresponsible. Because we don't know the intent, but now look at the uproar that the misintent has caused, or the lack of intent has caused now an uproar.
Okay, and you raise a good point. What is really the cause for the uproar? Because it didn't state that the students had an issue with it. It just stated the parents had an issue with it. Why do the parents have an issue with their children asking them about homosexuality?
Because parents are always the gauge on their kids' development. So if they don't feel like their kids are mature enough emotionally to handle that topic, they don't want another source getting to that before they feel like they're ready to.
Agreed. And again, I want to go back to the fact that I want things to be as neutral as possible. I want to be the individual that introduces major topics into my child's life. I don't want a random individual, although it might be a teacher, giving information which I might not completely agree with. I don't have anything with the homosexual community, but everything has its place. You don't even allow, public schools don't even allow you to say the Pledge of Allegiance anymore. So how is it that they're going to allow sexual displays of various forms of sexuality in a public school around 8-year-olds?
Right.
I just think it's too much.
Yeah, me too. Okay, so not even 9 or 10. Third graders are 8.
Yes.
They're 8 years old.
Okay.
I don't think it's fair to expose them to that. Again, don't get me wrong, I'm a wedding photographer. If it's the classy photo of you and your husband, that has no PDA to the point where your lips are pursed against each other, we're gonna put the photo up, right? So that everybody knows what we're talking about.
Right.
Their lips were pursed towards each other, completely face to face. I believe that that's inappropriate. I know.
Well, it seemed like a very benign wedding picture, because when you have a wedding picture, it's showing you kissing your
When you say
your
benign?
spouse. Benign meaning it wasn't, in my opinion, it didn't seem too vulgar, where there wasn't an inappropriate kiss there. They weren't tonguing each other down or anything like that, or groping each other. It was just a neutral, I guess, pop kiss, you can say. Now, it's up to interpretation, because if you're not fully comfortable with that subject, it might seem more offensive to you.
Well, it's not that it's offensive. Because again, love is love. I don't have anything against homosexual love, heterosexual love, whatever you want to do in your bedroom, fine, I don't care. It has nothing to do with me. But now the fact that my children are exposed to having this conversation about it, that's where I have the issue in it. personally. But that's not to say that if they had a regular wedding picture without the kids, that the children wouldn't ask either.
Right.
I just feel like there's a certain, it's not what you do, it's how you do it.
Right.
And as educators, we have another level of responsibility than the parents do because we have invested time in learning to become educators.
Okay.
You're actually with the kids longer than the
Than the
parents.
parents,
Yeah.
yes.
Right.
So you're influencing the children, whether you realize it or not. So that's why I'm saying that the teacher was irresponsible.
And you know what too? Like the way the classroom's set up, even though it's a personal item, it could be small, but once it's actually on the desk, kids run up to teachers' desks. So they could talk about a pen, they can talk about a piece of whiteout, and then just a picture. So they're gonna ask, they're inquisitive. Because
And
they're
they
in
ask-
a learning environment. So they're gonna just start the conversation right there. So the question is, are these teachers even prepared to structurally have that kind of conversation with a child at that age?
Right, so then it comes to, again, what was the teacher's intention? Or if there was no proper intention, then what's the problem with removing the photo?
Well, we don't know the outcome of it, but I think it might boil down to the parents being uncomfortable with speaking on that subject to their kids. Because if the kids are asking their parents, I don't see anything wrong with the child asking their parent about something because that gives the parent the opportunity to start the learning process. Now, we as parents, or I'm not a parent personally, but I think that we shouldn't want to dictate our own timetable and sensibilities on external stimuli because we can't do that. So we have no control over what our children are exposed to at a certain age. So if they're not ready to have that conversation, it doesn't matter because we have to evolve with it. You have to be able to handle things that you're not comfortable with and do it in a constructive way.
You gotta be prepared.
You have to.
Now, with that being said, I slightly disagree. And primarily because, you have school, we're talking about public school. All right, so public school, generally speaking, everything's got to be kind of run-of-the-mill, neutral. Go to a Catholic school, you know the agenda that they're going to be pushing there. You go to a Jewish school, you know the agenda they're going to be pushing there. So in a public school, everything has to be neutral, again, which is the reason why they don't allow you to say the Pledge of Allegiance, okay? Which is the reason why they don't allow you to push any kind of religious influences whatsoever, because it's there to cater to the general public, which is going to have a mixed diaspora. If they're worried about educating individuals or educating these kids on a wide scale, it has to be neutral overall.
Well, it wasn't mentioned that the teacher was educating the kids. It's just being exposed to things. And kids can be exposed to things at school by their peers, no matter the age.
But that's different. That's
How?
completely different. It's different because adults versus children. Adults have different responsibility levels than children. If your child is looking at something with another child that's inappropriate, that's more understandable than if an adult is sharing something inappropriate with your child. It's very different.
So the teacher's sexuality and his marital status is inappropriate?
The conversation about it is.
How do we know there was a conversation being taken place?
There's conversation because the children are asking questions. So how is the teacher responding?
Well, the children asked their parents questions. We don't know if the children was asking the teacher, and we don't know how the teacher was responding.
Children definitely ask their teacher because
No question.
because
Probably.
a classroom becomes a place of confidentiality also, right? Because sometimes your students will feel comfortable to tell you things that they're not comfortable to tell their parents.
Right.
So that means that you have a huge influence on these children's lives.
Right.
That is where the responsibility comes in. You cannot acknowledge that you are not responsible if you are an educator. It's an oxymoron.
I agree.
Well, I'm not responsible for what they think. Yes, you are. You are the teacher.
The teachers build a framework.
Yes. You have to take responsibility and you have to be mentally prepared to give proper responses so that the child does not take on your agenda also.
Correct.
To me, it's about the child being able to question further
Right.
beyond the answer that I've given them.
Now, I agree that the teacher should not be pushing his agenda if, that's what he's trying to do, then he's incorrect in that. However, I don't see an issue with just a picture being posted there or put on his desk, as long as he's not saying or advocating homosexuality to the kids or saying, you should be homosexual or things like that, which I highly doubt that he would do. If he was doing it, he wouldn't have a job. Okay, so now it's just a matter of a picture being on the desk, and now the parents are asking the principal to have the teacher removed the picture.
Right.
So this is more so just a personal freedom of expression.
Now, with that being said, it's not pushing homosexuality. But if you have a picture with two individuals of the same sex, with their public display of affection, kissing, so on and so forth, in that area, indirectly, you're slipping it in there subconsciously.
Right.
You know?
Right.
So again, and that's where I have the issue with it. That's where I have the issue.
Now, question, do you think that these parents would protest if it was a heterosexual couple in the picture?
Probably not. However,
that's a problem.
right.
That's a problem.
However, I also think there shouldn't be heterosexuals kissing and showing their public displays of affection, you know, in regard to. So it has to be equal. It has to be
It
equal.
has to be equal, straight across the board.
100%.
Same thing with the math example, right? Whether it's hetero or alternative. What does it have to do, and I'm going to use the same thing, math. What does it have to do with math? It takes away from learning time. Even if you have to answer a question, it takes away from the time where they should be on this specific topic and this specific curriculum. That's for me, that's
Point blank.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know if that turned into a classroom discussion during classroom learning hours, so that's an assumption that we can't really jump to. So it's just a matter of what the kids are seeing at school in the environment, whether it is in the classroom or even just in the school. Because there are things that the kids can see while they're on the school playground, just in the parking lot, if the teacher's coming in. So now we have to start parsing ears. And to your point of having a neutral learning environment, it's almost trying to have a sterile school system, which we know is not going to happen because it's a public school system. Everyone has their own freedom to express themselves. And as long as it's done in a respectful way to where you're not disrespecting any other race, culture, or creed, I have no issue with it because when our kids are in the outside world, which is what school is preparing them for, these are things that they're going to be exposed to, whether the parents are comfortable having a discussion with them or not. So not only do the teachers need to find some sort of common ground, the parents need to evolve as well and understand that the society is moving faster than they are. They may have to have these conversations with their kids sooner because we now see kids in elementary school, the same third graders are talking about boyfriends and girlfriends and kissing and what they're seeing on social media. So it's already out there, they're already exposed to it.
well, then it should be structured in a formal learning environment. Because we all were kids. We all were in class. There's a hive mentality that happens, right?
Right.
So even if one kid sees it and has a question, eventually they're going to start talking about it with the other kids in the class.
Yes.
And it's going to make its way to the classroom environment for it. Like setting a separate class altogether where maybe in the schools, parents have to specifically sign their children up for the class, whether, if they don't feel comfortable talking about it, okay, here's a learning environment where they can have the conversation. The teacher that's teaching it can specifically build the context and the framework for that, then that's okay. That's fine. You can put all the pictures in the world in that classroom because it's the curriculum. It's about the subject matter.
It's like sex ed.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I don't necessarily know if that would be the right idea unless it's in a high school setting, because now you will have the situation of certain kids being exposed to things and others aren't because their parents aren't comfortable with it. So now you're creating a distorted view of society for these kids.
Parents have to choose.
I think parents need to evolve because let's think back to when we were kids. There were things that we were already exposed to that we didn't feel comfortable talking to our parents with, or we felt that our parents' viewpoint was very myopic and old school. And the same thing carries on to today. Because the things now we're relating to what we were taught in school and what we were exposed to and we were comfortable with at our children's age, not thinking about what they are comfortable with and what they're able to emotionally handle at their age. Each generation is able to handle things at a broader spectrum early on. So now we have to understand that, and even if we're not comfortable with it, do it anyway. We still have to expose our. If they don't learn it from us, they're going to learn it from somewhere else. They're going to learn it in school.
From
They're going to learn it on
their
the
teacher.
internet. They're going to learn it on YouTube.
From their friends.
What parents? What would you prefer? Would you rather them learn it from you, or would you rather them learn it from someone else that you don't know what agenda they're going to be pushing to your kids?
So my question is, what conversations should parents be having with their children at home?
I would say it starts with just asking questions. Start asking the questions of the kids, what they're seeing in school, what they're learning, what they're being exposed to, and then not responding to it with a judgmental bias. Because we don't want to scar our kids to be afraid of asking us questions further on. And even if it's a question that you may not be comfortable answering right away, you could always table that discussion and say, you know what, let me think about it.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
You don't have to act like you know everything just because you're their
Exactly.
parent. That's all.
Open lines of communication.
Absolutely.
That's the name of the game.
That's lovely. What do you think? Leave
Share
us
your
a comment
comments.
below. Let us know. Have you seen the photo? Do you follow the Shade Room? Are you talking about this conversation as well? Are you a homosexual who feels like there's nothing wrong with it? Are you a heterosexual who feels like there's nothing wrong with it? Are you vice versa? Whoever you are, however you feel, join the conversation.
I've also heard that homosexuals push their agenda way too hard, but you know, I won't pass judgment.
Thank you for not passing judgment for their sake.
They said the same thing about civil rights.
That's true. That's true.
Cheers on that.